My name is Sara Boyd, and I'm the president and founder of Operation Truth, Vaccination Exposure Research. Today, we're having an interview with Teresa. She is our secretary here at the Operation Truth. And Teresa, if you could remind us, where are you based out of? Where do you call home?
I am in Central Illinois.
Central Illinois. So are you still in the winter, spring? Or are you hitting more of that spring, summer weather?
This week it's been summer. We've had 92 degree and 97 degree weather days this week. So
yeah, that's a lot like my family in Michigan are experiencing those high 80s already.
yeah,
Gonna be a little summer, I think.
yeah, it is.
So we're here today talking about your personal patient story and how you came to be a part of the VA system and what that's like for you. So if you could start by giving us a little bit of background about who you are, where you grew up, and why you chose to join the military.
I grew up in Brighton, which is just north of Alton. I'm sure everybody's heard of Alton. It's on the river bend. Um, I grew up there, born and raised. I actually live only about 15 miles from there right now.
Nice.
Um, I joined the military kind of double-edged sword kind of thing. I was rebounding from a really a long relationship where I was dumped without knowing I was dumped, and just family thing. And everybody in my family, well, every generation in my family has been in the military, and I just kind of chose to go that direction because I kind of felt lost and didn't have a direction to go. And then my grandpa had also just died too.
I'm so sorry. So yeah, it sounds like you joined the military for a lot of patriotic reasons, perhaps a lot of family background there. So which branch did you join, and what was your military life like?
I joined the army. Was when everything happened, signed up. I was army, like active army. And then when I went to basic training, I had to stay an extra 2 weeks in reception because I didn't weigh enough to make it out. They didn't think they thought I would like wither away to nothing, I guess. So I had to stay an extra 2 weeks in reception. So when I went to basic, or when I started basic, I was 2 days into basic when we did a run with the base general that was a 10-mile across every part of the base because he was retiring. And
Mm,
cars,
I know those. No,
cars
thank you.
cars
I
would
said
come
I
by.
remember.
So
No,
you got to
thank
move
you.
onto the sidewalk and then back down onto the road and onto the side. Well, I was coming back down onto the road and my foot didn't quite hit or it kind of my heel hit the edge of the curb, and I went down and I messed up my knee,
Oh
and
no.
it plagued me continuously through basic. I actually had to request coming off of a profile to take my final PT run. And when I got done with basic and I went to AIT, which I was medical supply, that was my MOS was 76 Juliet. I was a medical supply person. Got done with training down at Fort Sam, and I had already had my orders to go to my first duty station, and they didn't want me. They didn't want me because of my injury, because they weren't sure, the doctors weren't quite sure what was going on with my knee and how bad it was going to, was going to end up, if I was going to have surgery or anything else. So um, I had joined, when I joined on the delayed entry program. So what happened is they sent me back to the reserve unit that had started drilling with when I first signed up, because I signed up in December, and I didn't go to basic. I didn't go to basic until
What year was that? Like, what were you doing as
19,
a
1980. I joined in 88. I went to basic in 89.
All right.
So what they did was, when you signed up and it was going to be a while, they would put you with a reserve unit that had something to do with what you were going to be doing, and you would drill with them monthly until you went to basic, and then you would, be sent to your first duty station. So I never made it to active duty.
Oh, wow.
Ever. um,
Your ankle and foot must have been pretty messed up along with your knee, huh?
yeah. But they never did anything that was in 89. Nothing happened with it until 95, when I continually complained about it. And that was kind of we had went on an AT to Wisconsin, and it was in the winter. We went in the winter. I don't know why we went in the winter, but we went in the winter, and it just continually gave me trouble the entire time I was there. So when we got back, they finally sent me to Scott Air Force Base to see a doctor to find out what the problem was. But that was, after many years.
So they took you off of active duty, which was your contractual obligation, and put you in the reserves?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So how long did you serve then?
My final day out was April 4th of 2001.
April 4th of 2001. So you were in during the AVIP program, the Anthrax Vaccine Immunization Project.
Yes.
As a reservist, were you part of that AVIP program? Did they have you get the anthrax vaccine?
I had the anthrax vaccine along with about 6 or 7 other vaccines monthly for almost 2 years.
So you received vaccine though you weren't getting ready to deploy?
Because we were a medical unit, we were told that we went to our auditorium. Well, actually, we lined up in our like by our cages, which was where we kept all our equipment. Lined up, get the shots, go sit in the auditorium, and then they would come in and they would hand pick who was going. And that happened. Even though, I mean, the ground war was well over by the time they were doing this to us. It was in 91 and 92, and we even asked them, a few of us, we're like, why can't you pick who you're taking, vaccinate them, and then leave the rest of us alone? And they said, this is the way we're doing it.
Did they ever mention the anthrax vaccination program to you?
No.
Okay. Did they ever say that the anthrax was mandatory?
Well, they just really didn't give us a choice. They said, this is what we're doing. And yeah. I know that the anthrax vaccine was in there because I knew one of the nurses that was giving it to us. And okay. I'm no longer friends with her, but when we were friends, she says, yeah, I remember giving you guys the anthrax vaccines every month.
Every month, regardless of what was in your record.
Yes. Well, that's a whole nother issue right there, because we've talked before, and when you go to basic, you get all these multitude of shots. Yeah. And I have 4 blank pages of vaccine records in my C file.
4 blank pages. So why are they in there in the first place?
Yeah, because you don't start a new page until the first one's filled. And every one of them has my identification block stamped.
You know what we call that? Government logic.
Yes.
Do you recall anyone in your unit refusing to get the anthrax vaccine or doing what they could?
I do not remember anybody refusing, no.
So do you think that because you were a medic and you possibly, are at risk for, being around those type of medical conditions that you would need to be vaccinated against? Do you think that maybe was the push, was because you were in that type of job?
It could have been. I understand that, but it's
every month.
It's just a little ridiculous.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, that's and then we would get boosters every year on top of that. So I mean, I probably could have filled up one of those entire sheets with just those set of shots that we got.
So are you telling me and the people listening that you have were in the military and have no record of any vaccinations
No,
received.
none.
Not anyone, regardless of their military knowledge, knows that you cannot go through basic training or any training or a part time of the military without getting vaccination. That's
Exactly.
a must have through our basic training. Um, and there's one of the things I don't have is any record of the vaccinations I received in basic training. That's why I was asking if you recall of anyone refusing or did anybody have any reactions directly afterwards?
I
Can you
remember
recall?
a few people passing out.
Mm. Was that specific to the anthrax that you recall, or was it just could be a potentially multitude of different
It could have been
vaccinations?
a multitude of any of them because, and I forget again, bad memories. I forget when you were in, but they use the air gun on us.
Uh,
Have you seen the air guns?
yeah, they did that when we were in basic training.
Did they? That's what they were using on us at basic and at my unit. And there was they were all loaded in there together. So we were hit with, every one of them all at once.
Which is against the FDA regulation and
Yes,
how we administer any vaccination, especially one that is on emergency status per the FDA standards. Is
right.
there any other practices, being in medical supply, do you recall any other vaccination practices or where they did anything that seemed to be that government logic again that was completely out of the norm against what the FDA would regulate?
Just those 2 years. And like I said, by time they started things with us, the ground war was already over. And they just kept telling us that, we're preparing, people because there's people still needed. So, and they would only take like 5 people at a time. And some would be gone for 6 months, some were gone for a year or two. There was one that was only gone 3 months and she came back. And
Was that
she's
part of
like,
the
pardon?
cleanup crew? Did they go to Kuwait or?
They went to Saudi.
Okay, that's interesting. So were they part of that cleanup crew then?
I'm
I,
guessing. I'm guessing.
yeah.
I mean, we're a medical unit. We were trained in the DEP meds tents. I don't remember if you remember the DEP meds tents. The
There, yeah, a little bit.
They
But
had air conditioning, heat, that sort of thing, and they were plastic, canvas, and had it's like you could set it up like a real hospital. We were trained to the nines in that stuff. And that's why they kept saying they needed us, is because we could go over there and get but nobody ever said anything about setting the tents up. I mean, being supply, when people would come back, my responsibility was to clean up their supply, the stuff they took with them, their mop gear. That was my responsibility to clean up. I was responsible for cleaning their weapons, getting all the sand out of them. I
so
mean,
you were exposed to those environmental factors as well.
yes,
The first war, when the evidence when that there's things in the sand and on the equipment that came back with those individuals that went to war. So you
yes,
were picking up that equipment that was with those individuals after the first wave.
yes.
So how long were you in the reserve unit?
That unit I was in for, let's see, 94. I was in that unit till 94. And then that unit completely dissolved. Like it just we were part of a hospital that had 3 detachments. And all 3 detachments just evaporated like
Hmm.
at, I think it was
Well,
the middle of 94. So we were absorbed into a general hospital that was in St. Louis. And I was in that unit until, let me think, 90, 96. I was in that unit till 96. And then I transferred to, I transferred my MOS to a general supply clerk and transferred into a maintenance group over here in Wood River.
All right. So what was that like? The whole
Which
different.
one? Oh, the whole different MOS.
Yeah.
It kind of really wasn't much different because I was doing a lot of the clerk stuff at the medical units because they didn't have a general supply clerk. It all kind of fell here. Me and my friend, I had a friend, we were really close, and after she went to when the 21st closed, the general hospital closed, she went to Scott Air Force Base, took a job there, so that she kind of got moved away, pretty far away from me. So, and we lost contact, and I've just got in contact about 6 months ago with her daughter and found out that she died in 2014 from a very rare intestinal cancer that usually only attacks men.
Oh, wow.
But her and I mean, we were with both, the two medical units, but we were basically glorified supply people because we just did everything. I mean, there was even times when I was doing payroll, and
Yeah.
we were a
Wow.
catch-all. If the job needed done, that was the first place they came to say, hey, we need you to do this, and they give us a crash course and say, do it.
So I'm so sorry to hear that about your friend and fellow veteran. How long ago did she pass?
That was in 2014.
2014.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Did her family or did she discuss with you, did she feel that it was as a result of the environmental exposure of her
Her
military service?
her daughter told me that she always felt that it was from the multitude of chemicals that we were exposed to,
Yeah.
because the doctors kept telling her that they were so in awe of the fact that she had this cancer, let alone died from it, because it's usually, like I said, usually affects men, and it's like 99% curable.
Yeah, you can treat it by removing the colon, if I'm correct.
Right.
You have to have a colostomy bag, but like you said, it's
Yeah.
treatable. And
It's they said it's 99% treatable, and
yeah,
usually I'd have to look up what the name of it was, because her daughter and I still talk. But she gave me the name of it, and I looked it up, and yeah, it says it only affects men, and I'm like, so how did she get something that only affects men?
it definitely fits within the parameters of what Gulf War illness is, and that the VA has placed a lot of those gastrointestinal conditions in this umbrella of chronic multi-symptom illness.
Yes.
And it's unfortunate that even though on their public health website they are listing all these conditions that have been caused by certain toxic exposures, that as veterans have to still fight so hard to get these claims um, taken care of and to get compensated, to get the benefits that we earned, and that the VA is publicly announcing that they have paused in this way. So
Yeah.
fortunate that um, that so many have been affected by this policy that has been in place for several decades now, and we still cannot get the benefits that we earned and need because we can no longer work. So tell us a little bit about why you ended your military career and decided to become a veteran.
Well, that was kind of another one of those things where the unit I was with was kind of winding down, and they were going to be transferring to, they were going to transfer everybody that wanted to stay in further south. I can't remember where they went to, but it was further south than this. And they took everybody one at a time, and they talked about their career and what things they had. And one of the first things that caught the attention of the captain that was doing my interview was that I was diagnosed with asthma adult onset asthma in 1992, and
Wow.
which coincidentally was the beginning, the beginning of the second year of these anthrax shots. There was multiple times I was taken from my drill to the closest hospital because I stopped breathing,
Oh,
and they couldn't figure out why. And they just started putting me on, inhalers and stuff. And I went through probably 20 inhalers in 6 months trying to find one that would actually help enough to where I could keep breathing.
wow.
And they
Now,
pretty much, at that point, they pretty much said, well, you really don't qualify for a transfer to this other unit because you shouldn't even be in the military with asthma.
yeah.
And I was like, wait a minute, what? And they're like, yeah, we're going to discharge you. And I was like, well, what does that mean for me? And they said, it doesn't mean nothing. It just means you just go and do your whatever you're doing at home. You just don't come to drill anymore. We give you a paper that says you completed your time in the military and go about your business. So at that point,
you through a med board process?
no, nothing.
I wonder if they had those back then. I'm not sure exactly when they started the program. I know when I was coming out in 2008, they were putting me through a med board process, but they had just started putting together these type of medical processing units.
Right.
So it was a very brand new unit that I was going to. So
Right.
what was the process like for you? Did they have anybody supporting you, making sure you had what you needed in your medical records? Any lawyers?
Nope. No lawyers, no medical records, no nothing. I asked them if I could have copies of stuff, and they told me they couldn't do that. It was property of the government.
What about a medical chapter? Did you have anything that no? They just put you out.
Yep.
What is your chapter called? Is it just an honorable discharge? What type of did you receive?
Well, it just says that I completed my I can't remember what it says. I'd have to look at it. I know right where it is at home. But it basically just says I completed my time in service. And up until, gosh, I want to say when you and I met, I didn't consider myself a veteran. I wasn't in the VA system. That was in 2001 was when I was discharged, and I didn't go to the VA until 2016.
Wow, 15 years after. Huh?
I did. There were a number of times where I would go to the doctor with my knee, and they would ask me how it happened, and they'd be like, "Oh, well, you need to try to get into the VA," because they wouldn't mess with it because they're like, it sounds to me like they should have picked up something and fixed it for you. And so I would every so often I would send off a letter with my DD-214 and say, hey, can somebody help me out? And I'd immediately get a letter back saying, nope, you're not a veteran. Not a veteran.
Wow, they would say you're not a veteran?
Oh, yeah. I actually have letters at home from the VA saying that I'm not a veteran because I was never active duty except for my initial basic and AIT.
And then they wonder why there's 22 a day in some states.
Exactly. But I had contacted my congressman, and I found a VSO up in Jacksonville, which is about 45 minutes from me, and she is worth her weight in gold. She knew exactly who to contact and how to word everything that was there to get my foot in the door, basically. And then once my foot was in the door, I was able to get exams. And
those VSOs are so important, and
they are
the only way that we're able to put our medical claims process together and actually get it approved. It's due to the way
there's a lot of them out there that aren't that great, but
yeah, some of them just take a paycheck.
yeah, exactly. And that's not the way I would look at things. If that was something I was doing, I would be wanting to get everything that the person that I was working for deserve. Then you're not working for them because you're not getting paid, but that's what they're there for.
If you're a veteran helping another veteran, who wouldn't want to make sure that they have what they need?
Yeah.
With that said, what would you tell the other service members and possible new veterans to look out for, to do, and to make sure that they have accomplish before they get out of service to make their process a little bit easier?
I actually tell a lot of people this because I know, I actually know a lot of people who have been in the military, and they're like, well, I'm going to be getting out. The first thing I tell them is don't leave without taking a copy of everything in all your files, your
Uh,
medical file and your personnel file. Don't leave without getting a copy. And 6 months before you get out, you need to start going to the doctor, and you need to start saying exactly what's really wrong. Don't hide it anymore, because a
Is
lot
that
of places, they give that stigma of, if you go to sick call or whatever, then you're just, you're slack, and you need to, stop being so, such a baby, and just do what needs to be done. Well, you still need to have that documentation in there.
absolutely? And that's great advice. Thank you so much, Teresa. And thank you so much for sharing a bit of your military life and the things that you've accomplished. When we come back again, we'll talk more about what your life has been like as a veteran and what the VA has done for you or not done for you. Thank you so much again for coming and doing this personal patient interview. We really enjoy your time, and we look forward to having you on the next time.
Thank you.